Do you like conversation on a variety of topics? Feel like no one wants to talk about the things that interest you? Tired of only hearing the same political, sports, or catastrophe talk? Yeah, we feel that way too. Join two high-functioning geeks as they discuss just about anything under the sun. We can't tell you what we'll be talking about each week because we don't know where our brains will take us. It will be an interesting conversation though, so hang on and join us. Here comes the Relentless Geekery.
Do something about my backdrop, without my fake backdrop. It's obvious how cluttered Sky Dad is up here. So
we can't get everything. Zoom is fairly easy. Allows us to do backgrounds, but it only does widescreen.
Right.
So we can't stack it. Zencaster allows us to do more for mobile stacking, but it doesn't have any backgrounds.
Exactly.
And
That's what you talked about last time, that if we're trying to pursue the phone market and stuff like that, you know what I mean, get our viewership up, get people able to enjoy our wonderful commentary on every point.
Right. And I've been researching between this and horror lasagna. I've been looking like over the last 3 years, what videos, what clips, how long, really trying to figure out, crack that market type thing. And it's really kind of hit or miss sometimes, but videos that are stacked to fit on a mobile screen get way more hits than wide ones for desktop, whether it's longer or shorter. So
got it. Honestly, I have no problems with it. It just, it was not at all. I like the fact that we're pursuing being more things out there. It just is, you don't realize how much you're living in this concealed world until it's revealed. And like, really, all this stuff is interesting and important. I've just kind of like let it accumulate. So
right, just don't die if it falls on you or anything.
That's right. Plus, also the clean desk is a sign of a weak mind. I think I remember
exactly. That's what I tell my son. Is you can't see my desk. The camera is up above, so you can. I mean, I was out, blah blah blah, whatever. I don't remember, running around the last couple weeks, and I just happened to stop at a Goodwill. And I'd stopped there before, and I knew it was a okay Goodwill. Let's check it out. I got some extra time,
right.
So I stopped and I was looking around, and they had CDs. I'm like, okay, I'm not buying too many CDs, but they're fairly cheap. Let's check them out. Oh, somebody was dumping off all their Christmas stuff. They had just rows of Christmas stuff. And I'm looking, they're going, oh, I've not heard of this one. Oh, I've not heard of this. So I've got a stack of Christmas CDs and it's March, because I gotta get them burnt, but it's not a high priority right now. So it's like, if I did it, I what the heck?
It sounds like you stumbled upon a classic post-holiday clearance situation.
Where'd my phone go? Google's talking to me. Shut up. So it's not a high priority, but if I would just, rip them, then I could get them off my desk. But I've got other stuff to do, so they're sitting here. So then it becomes cluttered,
Yeah. In my case, I almost always digitize things right when I get them, but then I tend to put them like in a stack over here to the side before I integrate them into the collection. And then when that stack starts to get like, now I can't reach into my printer easy because I got to reach over the stack. That's what I have certain pain points that I allow to guide me with. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too tall. I have stacks of CDs that I haven't put into the shelves in a vertical way. And as the stack gets taller, I keep hoping, please don't just tilt one day and scatter, because I know I'll break CDs, but the cases get hurt and they get, if anything, they're each stack is sorted within. Whenever I digitize things, I also put them in alphabetical order so they'll go easily into the shelves. And when something like that falls over, it's like, well, I guess I got to resort all that stuff.
Right.
Any collector knows that there's value in having things sorted that you give up if somebody else helps you, because they don't get that you really did build some information into the set. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So.
Yeah. So weekend, you were down at the RG. I haven't been to that one for a couple years. I kind of miss going and visiting. My problem is that now that Colin's going to be gone, it just leaves my mother here. And while she's spry enough, there's still that little concern if she fell or something, which is a minor concern. But actually, the worst part is I've got Hunter the big wolf, and she's afraid of dogs. So she's afraid to go buy them and take care of them. So I'm like, I can't leave Friday and come back Sunday, and then he's not getting fed or watered.
Better water for a couple.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And I've got my cat's upstairs. So that's, a whole flight of stairs for her to go up. And we're working on getting handrails and redoing the steps into the kitchen because they're big. Anyway, it's like, oh, do I want her to go up and down those steps while I'm not here and afraid she's going to fall and break her hip or something?
Of course, exactly.
So it makes it rough to run out for a whole weekend.
Yeah. Having had, as you know, some of that, when my mom was here and then previous when she was a year out in California, when I always had that consideration of, I don't want to go too long without visiting her. And if I would be gone, like when we went away for vacation, we'd be gone for like 7, 10, 14 days. And my mom had advanced enough Alzheimer's that it didn't seem that she had a lot of the passage of time. It wasn't a big thing for her. So whenever I would show up, she'd be happy to see me and hardly ever like, oh, it's been a long time. She just didn't seem to know that anymore. But I really had that concern of, if I go away and I find out that something bad has happened, I got to come back from England, or, you know what I mean? Like, it'll be the overhead of getting back is a day, and things could, luckily, I'm not the only one. My brothers could get up from Florida or over from Indiana in less time than it would take me to get back. But still, once you take on that kind of responsibility, you can't be cavalier about it. You know what I mean? You got to say, I'm the one that, and same with whenever I started doing all kinds of out of town things with Mensa back like 30 years ago, but I had the pooch, Fenris. And so I hated putting him in a kennel because it just seemed he's used to having the run of the house, not this tiny little thing. And even if they walk him 2-3 times a day, it's not the same as now I walk on a cage floor and stuff like that. So I had a pet sitter lady come in. And that seemed to be really, really wonderful. She took good care of them, and he had the home atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. And she actually saved him one time. I used to give him horse hooves. That's one of those things that's organic and it, as opposed to real bones, which can be brittle enough that they actually crack, and you don't want your dog having the bone stuck in the throat or anything like that. Well, he still swallowed a piece of horse hoof that was big enough that then he couldn't pass it. And she was noticing that he was not regular when she took him on the walks. And actually, I think there was a little bit of blood, which ain't a good sign. So she actually was the one that took him to the vet, and they gave him the operation where they had to open him up and then open his stomach and get this thing out. And he fully recovered. But I felt forever guilty over, oh my God, my little buddy got really in trouble and I couldn't get home in time enough. He really needed to go right then. Let's take care of this. And that's its own set of stories where, they gave him, of course, the cone, you know what I mean? And the cone of shame. But in this case, it really was, it itched him so much that if he didn't have that on, he really would have licked and pulled his own stitches out. And that's not a good thing.
Right.
I was amazed at how spry he was. After a couple days after the operation, he was already jumping up on furniture or standing up to visit me and stuff like that. And take care of yourself there, buddy. And yet they really did a good job on him. And then he just had he was a very fuzzy dog. So only on his belly did he ever have any kind of bare flesh. And where they opened him up, then, well, the only bare flesh on him, now you can actually see a scar on it too. So I guess, that was, anyway, that whole story was about how you have to take care, as we're talking about, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
we had a wonderful time at the RG. It was very nicely attended, 130 people, really high quality programs, not only from members, but from lots of outsiders. So got a chance. Let's see, what did I go to? A really good one about the mind-body connection, especially in terms of exercise, that if you want to keep your mighty Mensa brain working well, one of the best things you can do is regularly oxygenate it and get blood flow and so forth. And just the kinds of things you do to routinize yourself and exercise are good for you in many different ways, in terms of muscle, in terms of aerobics and stuff like that. They were a really good one about that. Went to one that was big studies of dating apps, and very interesting because I think I've mentioned we love a series called Freakonomics, where they really do a statistical and rigorous examination of how things really work in the world, and that people have, I guess, stereotypes, prejudices about, that drug dealers are all uh, um, bad kids, and that it's really a blight on society. But when they look at it, the thing that it most compares to is like multi-level marketing. You know what I mean? That the similarities of why would someone go into doing that at all? Because it's based on friendships. It's based on a big payoff being possible at the end. The way the hierarchy is set up is that the guys at the top are making all the money and all the kind of drones down at the bottom, they have that carrot that's dangled and stuff. So having said that, so much about like who is nowadays we have a lot of stuff that's not about writing a good profile. It's Tinder, and I've never used a dating app really because Colleen and I have been together long enough that it was like pre the advent of a lot of these
Right.
things. But just swipe,
It was those old VCR tapes you watched over and over, right?
yes, or speed dating, where also you're making snap judgments, but that people for everybody that talks about, I'm looking for someone that is has a good sense of humor and is intelligent and is a caring person, both guy and girl, if you will. And yet the statistics say it's still all about appearance. A guy has to be over a certain height to be at all dating acceptable, and sadly that the stereotype of guys are the ones that care more about appearance as opposed to women. It's just not true. That women are just as uh, driven by biology to say, I want a guy that has a certain presence, a certain look, and uh, as he went through all these stats, there was all kinds of argumentation from the crowd because they want to hold on to, no, I'm sure that's not true. I know. And it's like, well, maybe the reason that you've not been successful on the dating apps is because if you're going to play the game, you have to play by what really works, not what doesn't. If you write a nice 3-paragraph, I enjoy long walks on the beach and all that kind of stuff, really what you got to say is, I have a job. I have all the important teeth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I remember some of those profiles. I'm like, if that's what you're looking for and you just won't talk to anybody else, you're not someone I'm interested in anyway. If you're that, it didn't matter what you liked or did. It was just, you had to be so tall. You couldn't be bald, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, next,
Right. And I'll say it, though I never used dating apps, in the time when I might have been dating, I never used lines. I never tried to be anybody but what I was because it's like, well, if I put together this whole crafted persona that's not really me, when is the mask going to slip? When am I going to be like, well, that was all bullshit? And it's not only the first meeting when he's like, well, you said you were 6'2", but you're 5'8", but even just, I don't know, what do you like doing? And if that wasn't true, now forever after you're going to go to art openings and you don't like them, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I was always very upfront just to not have
Right.
it be that I wasted time and their time in trying to put together this fake.
Right.
So
the thing that I tried them for a while after I got divorced and all that, but then I started going, wait a minute. So I'd get on, I'd do a search and show me people. These are the closest. These are the most that match you, blah, blah, blah. So all these different criteria. And then I'd be like, okay, I'd look at a couple, maybe try and contact a couple, whatever. And then like the following there's like, oh, we found new matches for you. And they'd send me an email with these new matches. And I'm looking at it going, wait 1 second. I did a search yesterday. This person has been on there for 5 years. They didn't come up in that search. I'm like, so you people are purposefully keeping people off the search just so I'll stay on longer and you can keep sending me new ones every day.
That's right. What it's about is keeping you a permanent subscriber, not necessarily winning the dating game.
Right.
By the way, he did have, like, again, it's kind of fun to hear the statistics that were surprising, but they sure sound true. There really are some, there's always a need for a certain amount of commonality and then perhaps a certain amount of difference so that you're bonded over, you like doing some of the same things and you have some of the same deep beliefs, but also you don't want to be clones of each other. There has to be a little bit of vive la différence. And so what's one of the biggest characteristics that if people share this, they really will have long-term success, whether they like horror movies or not.
That makes sense.
Why? That whatever, we've talked a little bit about some people are pleasure driven. Some people are adrenaline driven. Is it adrenaline or serotonin? That kind of thing. And that apparently, if you really like or really don't like horror movies, that really works. That the people who really don't like them get together, and people who really do, and there's a whole bunch of muddle in the middle. But there are certain things that I don't know. Colleen and I both, we have a good sense of humor, and we love going to do that. We talk about how our favorite night out is going to comedy clubs, and so that thing isn't only about have a nice sense of humor, but a lot of people, they talked about, even if you say you like a nice sense of humor, whenever we offer to all of our friends, hey, come to the comedy club with us. This is a guy that we really like and you should go see him. This gal is really funny. Sometimes people think that a sense of humor is a weapon that can be turned against them, and so they don't want to sit in the front row, and they don't really want someone so funny that they would tease them. You know what I mean? That kind of, and yet Colleen and I have that where that's not how we use our sense of humor. It's not it's not a weapon. It's not like, how can I get the better of you kind of a thing, So
Right.
it was fun. If anything, Mensa is a very interesting atmosphere because for all of Menson's more stereotypical characteristics, how many people might be on the spectrum, how many are big readers, and that's not really a dating activity, if you know what I'm trying to say. And yet, it was very fun to hear people chime in with their success or failure stories, and the guy coming across with all the various different, and also come to the end and kind of saying, and so despite knowing all these kinds of things, have I found someone necessarily? You know what I mean? It's not a play the game by the rules and it'll all work out okay. There's still spark and chemistry and luck that goes into these kinds of things that for a lot of people love at first sight, especially for guys, it still really matters that they just, you walk into a room and scan the room and there's 30 people at the party. And for whatever reason, somebody gets so much of your attention.
Okay. So I'm going to jump in. So two things,
Sure.
going back to the horror thing real quick, and I got something else. So it's kind of like what you always say with games. You get to know somebody through that. Your psychological makeup and profile comes out.
Absolutely.
And the same thing Reese and I talk about all the time is horror is not just a genre. There's not just, this is a horror. It's undefinable at times with what makes horror, what's scary. That's why it works. If we see a romance, it's like, oh, that's a romance movie. We know it's a romance movie. It looks like a romance. It tastes like it's a romance. But horror fits in with other genres. Like Warm Bodies. That was a romance with zombies. So is it horror or romance? Well, it's both. You get lots of action movies. Is it horror or romance? Well, or horror or action. It's both. That's why it works. And that's why games work, because there's a wide variety. It's not just that, do you like to play games? Do you not like to play games? Well, you can't answer that because, well, I like to play, group games like code names, but I don't like to play Axis and Allies,
Exactly.
so
All the different genres are represented within the field. And just that, whenever we go to mind games, there's often a push within Mensa to say, can we do it so that I don't want to play the deep strategy games? I want to play the party games, the word games, the trivia games, whatever else it might be. And people could segregate it, I guess, and
Right.
have the people that really want to play only certain things. But then there's like statistical need for people who, if they really don't like a game, they don't know if they like it going in. Will they still read the rules well? Do they still judge the game based on the quality of the materials and so forth, even if it isn't their particular, I would have sought this out type game?
Right.
So maybe one day they'll start doing that. Maybe as the game, as it expands and stuff like that. And if anything, it's kind of funny for those who don't know, Mensa does a really cool thing called Mind Games where we play test like dozens, probably 60, 70, 80 games amongst 300 people. And then based on all of those collected statistics as to, was it creative? Did it have quality materials? Did it have extensible gameplay or repeatability? All those kinds of things. Then we pick the Mensa select games for the year, and that gets the manufacturers that submitted their games to us. If they win, they get to put the Mensa Select seal on their games, like come Christmas. And for a lot of people, that is a signifier of, wow, there's 100 games out here. What do I play? Oh, well, here's what Mensa says is this year's really good strategy game, world building game, trivia game, that kind of thing. So I really love going to that event, and I have a novelty gene in me somewhere that says I really like trying new things. I really like figuring it out, like from the first blush of opening the box. So what's the winning conditions for this game? And is it about the rules, about the players, about the, what do you have to learn in order to be able to do this? Not only to win, because I'm not winning obsessed, but at least to like get satisfaction out of, oh, that little strategy worked well. And if it didn't, I immediately come up with another strategy to try, as opposed to I feel like I'm butting my head against the wall. This, some things just, they're not fun to various different kinds of people and stuff like that.
So I forgot what the other thing was I was going to say. So if I remember, I'll come back to it, or I'll listen to the episode. We'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
But as far as games go, so I had some fun games this weekend. I'm sure you played some games.
Okay.
So wow, a whole lot of gaming going on. So the new Lorcana set came out. The new Star Wars set came out. So now I've got all new cards to do that. And I pulled some of the rare enchanted showcase cards that so if I sell them, it'll probably pay for most of what I bought. That's good. But then I was playing
existing base and you're integrating new things into it, and it really does shift gameplay, and the people who design the games are aware of, we really don't cover this and this and this. And so it's very cool to see that the game players are really canny about what would make the game better over the course of time. So
yeah, and so one of the games I played with a friend over the weekend was L5R. It's another collectible card game based on feudal Japan with its own history and lore and all that. Never played it a whole lot. I got friends that play it, but they never explained it well, and they have a lot of house rules which I didn't like. So I was playing with, and that was fun playing with Sean. L5R, had a great time playing that.
Never even heard of it. L5R. Okay. I can
we played a couple other card games. We played the Harry Potter card game. We played an old Star Wars card game. So we were all over the board. Yeah. But the most fun was Friday night, our monthly first Friday game get together group. Since Colin's leaving, he went with me and we played The Thing at Outpost 31 based on the John Carpenter movie, The Thing.
Yes. Very good.
Think of it as the horror version of Clue.
Right. You have to figure things out by putting together what happened where to who.
Yeah.
That there really are people that are trying to conceal their identity.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So it was fun. We had a great time. And they killed me. You got 3 segments. They killed me in the second segment and I was infected. So it was a smart thing. Okay. But then in the third segment, they killed Colin and he was a human. And we're like, what the hell? We brought the game and you gang up and kill us all?
We'll just go sit here by the refrigerator. Yeah.
But it was a fun time. We enjoyed that. So
very good.
Good.
And one thing so at Mind Games, you really are supposed to treat each game as a new experience. But often what happens, and you have to play at least 30, if I remember correctly, out of the set,
a lot, yeah.
Randomized and so forth. It really is work to get it all done. But then often people get there by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, by noon Saturday, they're done. And then people start to replay the ones that were their greatest hits. And what is a good thing is, as people get done, instead of it being that you only have to read the rules and kind of struggle through it together, often there are people there that are really good explainers. The first time that I played Dominion was very different when I had someone who really understood Dominion to say, here's what you need to be thinking about. Here's the various different, and it's like, oh, well, those would have been, I don't know that I would have stumbled onto those key strategies, but now it makes sense in that way. And Mensa also hosts a GOG, a gathering of gamers, usually January, February in Chicago. And it's like a games weekend, a big one where there's hundreds of people there. And it's really key to hook up with the people that are good players, pleasant company, if you will, and good explainers, so that the hitting the ground running thing takes 5-10 minutes to onboard you, and then you're playing the game instead of reading an 80-page booklet.
Yes.
What the hell? There's too many pieces,
Right. And explaining games to people is a whole skill. And I know a lot of people that are horrible at it, and it makes it so much harder to figure out the game because they'll sit there and read the book to you. It's like, look, I can read the book myself if that's what I wanted to do. Exactly. But they read it in monotone. They don't read it so you understand it, or they just, it's just a skill that not everybody has. And I've played games where I'm trying to figure it out and understand. They're like, well, I told you that. You're like, yeah, but you monotonously read me 500 rules. It's better if we get set up. I can look at the cards and stuff and I can ask questions as we go. and
Exactly.
figure it out. I'm not thinking the first game I'm going to win. I'm
It's I really, one of the things about a GOG is I really have gravitated towards certain specific sets of people because they really are pleasant company, and others, the ones that are too much rules Nazis, are the ones that really, if you have a game where it's turn based and they just always take too long on their turn, it's like, maybe while other people are playing, you could be planning ahead and then hit the ground running. When it's your turn, for the love of God, play, keep things moving along.
Dominion. That's huge with Dominion. I've played people that get upset because they're like, well, you just play too fast. I'm like, there are 5 of us sitting here.
Exactly.
Well, my hand is not going to change, and there's nothing that anyone's doing to my hand except maybe getting rid of a card or two. So as I'm waiting for you guys all go, I'm sitting here looking at my cards, figuring out what I want. So come my turn, I lay my cards down, I grab what I buy, and I'm done. Move on. And everybody else, oh, it's my turn. Well, let me read these cards. I don't understand what they do. It's like,
Or also, like, even if you're looking at your cards and it isn't going to be necessarily be the exact same game by the time it gets around because you have 4 people playing in front of you, don't you make little contingency plans that say, well, here's what I intend to do, but if all of a sudden it's orange everywhere instead of blue, I better shift instead of being swamped by the fact that the game seems to be going in a different direction. And none of the changes usually are so big that you're like, well, now nothing that I was planning matters. You have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 level deep planning so that you're going to make the best of it no matter what happens as the game goes around. And yet that's not how some people do it. They really they have their cards on a stack on the table. When it's their turn, they fan them open. It's like, how have you not been looking at your cards up until now?
And worse is when it's, because, Dominion, it changes every time. So then they're like, okay, well, hold on. Let me read all my cards to figure out what I want to do. It's like, oh my God, that's what slows it down. Now, I don't fault people if they haven't played the game and that they don't understand everything about it. That's fine. Just ask questions. I'm sitting there. I'm done. I'm waiting for my turn. Ask me questions. I'll try and explain it to you in between.
Exactly.
The people that know me and Colin, if you get the base set of Dominion and set up with the recommended starter to give you an idea of how to play it, we won't even play that setup anymore because we got to the point where we pretty much know you buy 5 of these, a couple of these, and some of these, and you're done in like 15 turns or less.
It's very mechanical. There's no surprises. There's no, yes, I hear
And worse yet is we start going so fast, we're laying down cards, picking up new ones, shuffling, laying down cards, buying it. It's like, whose turn is it? It's like, well, I thought it was yours. I just went. Well, no, I shuffled. We're going so fast, we lose track. And it's just because, we've got that setup memorized. That's why I love Dominion, because I've got 4 or 5 different expansions. I can mix cards and get something completely new that you can't just flip around. And Colin's biggest strategy, and it's a good one, is you buy the cards that let you play another action and get more cards and buy more. Get those ones that let you do more actions. And then every turn he's action, 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 and it just builds up. Well, if you play a set that has nothing that lets you do another action, it totally screws with his thinking of what he wants to do. Totally have to change your mindset.
I hear you. It's kind of funny. Dominion and various other resource building and card games, they really are meant to be complexifiers, that it really does matter how everything, whereas some people love playing games that, honestly, if I play euchre, I'm like, I get surprised about once a night out of hundreds of hands. How can it not be the most mechanical? You look at your hand and you know how it's going to go. And maybe it's the luck of the cards, but otherwise some people are really fascinated, and maybe it's because they really don't want to think while they're playing the game. It's something to do with your hands while you're talking with your friends, and I get that. But a mix of those peoples where some are really trying to play and some are like, boy, I have often talked maybe a little complainingly about I most of my life is spent waiting because I really think quickly and deeply both. And I kind of see how the world is going, how a conversation is going to go, how a game, whatever else it might be. And it can really be a downer when, wow, I really thought I was going to have a good gaming night. And somehow I got into how many situations where I don't want to check my phone. I don't want to be rude. And yet I was really polite to not be, can I help you? If you're not catching on, I got a few tips I could give you. And you don't want to kibitz, but you also don't want to be like, this is torturous. You play 10 hands and you don't seem to be learning anything. Other people we've played games where the rest of the table can give you advice, and they're obligated to give you good advice, not try to bamboozle you. You know what I mean?
As long as that's not part of the game.
And that's right. Right. That is indeed, yes. but it's like, let's get you up to speed quickly, because I think that your enjoyment of the game is going to be better if you don't think, wow, 3 out of 4 players are really cruising along and I'm the starter and I'm the one that's holding things up. Don't you want to get up to speed faster, better about what you're doing? And some people, unfortunately, are the little 4-year-old, I'll do it. And it's like, well, then some tournaments have started to be like, no novice players. If you're going to play in a wizard tournament where there really is some strategy, because it's a bidding game and you really got to watch what other people are doing and stuff like that, you don't, not only are they playing slow, but actually people not doing best play, it really throws the game off by not expecting people to play wisely, and then they don't. And you're like, wow, it's kind of like being at a blackjack table where someone took your card, if you know what I'm trying to say. It's not real. People always have the right to choose whatever they want to do, but it spoils my enjoyment of the thing.
Well, that's kind of like
Own it.
that's kind of like Kirk playing 3D chess.
There you go.
So I don't know if I've related this, my euchre playing experiences.
Okay.
I don't play euchre anymore. I
I
out of
too.
all the games I've played, which is hundreds of games, deep strategy games, I'm not the best always. I'm not the expert. I usually understand them. I get them. Maybe it takes me a couple tries, and okay, and I still may not win. That's fine. That's not it. There is something with euchre that my brain is broke. I have never played euchre without fucking it up completely and playing the wrong shit all the goddamn time.
So that's
to the point where I remember playing when I was married with my brother-in-law and his wife. The 4 of us were playing. We used to get together quite a bit and play.
Okay.
That I was so happy because I had like the perfect hand. Both of the jacks, which I knew were great, and then like aces or kings or something. I'm like, this is the best hand. Now I dealt, so it was kind of like, did you stack the deck? I didn't, honest. And I was so happy, and we played through, and I was getting them, and I had the Bauer, the big one that gets everything no matter what, and I threw it down, and they all looked at me and said, we're already done. That's an extra card. You had too many in your hand. And I was like, are you kidding me?
I saved it to be the last trick.
Yes.
And oh no.
So for Christmas, I got the Euchre for Dummies set, which is a book that tells all about how to play, but every card tells you when to play it. They said, so here's when you play this card. So I could just sit there and read it and know, because I would play the wrong card and they're looking at me, what are you doing? All the time. I'm like, well, I played that. They're like, you can't because of this. I'm like, oh, okay, wait, hold on. It's like, what am I not getting about this simple game? Give me checkers,
Yeah, I hear you. I'm trying to think if there's any.
Bye, have a good day.
I have a block about that I don't get it after a while, or most of the time it's like I don't get much satisfaction out of it. Like I said, to me, it's very predictable. You can look at your hand and just know how things are going to go.
Right.
John, a good friend, John Masura, has actually put together an interesting variation called duplicate euchre, where it's kind of like duplicate bridge. Everybody gets dealt the same hands, and then the comparison is not did you win, but did you win compared to others? And sometimes you have to take a certain amount of risk. Sometimes it really is just playing it perfectly, and other people don't play perfectly. But that has added some spice back into it, because then it's especially there really are people that they'll try too hard always, and all I have to do is play rationally and calmly, and I won't be the wild card guy over there. But then sometimes that really is what necessary is to break the usual conventions and just take a risk and say, yes, everything was still buried in the other hand. And indeed, if you play that card, you slurp all the other trump out of people's hands, and then you win. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, well, I won't be playing Duker. I'll stick with Dominion.
Okay. That's one thing that's interesting about RGs is that it really is mostly not only party games, but it really isn't a conducive atmosphere, because it's not only dedicated to games. There's hospitality, there's conversations, there's running off to programs and stuff like that. And getting into a game that's going to take 2 concentrated hours is not an easy thing to do. You
No.
kind of have to go to the corner of the games room, or even like go to another room. Sometimes they'll have dedicated rooms elsewhere that's supposed to be, I don't know, the stitch and bitch room. And then if it's not being used for needle pointing and
Right.
that kind of stuff, you go hide there, and then you can have a good game for that set of 6 players that really wanted to have that exact experience. So
Yeah, that's the one problem, especially like if you go to Weem, it's 2 or 3 program tracks running with lots of good talks. And then there's like this huge game room with people always wanting to play, willing to play,
right,
but it's like, well, what is this? Well, it's Access and Analyze. It's going to be 4 hours to set up. Then it's an 8-hour game. It's like, nah, I got other stuff to do. But again, I don't always like to go and just play all the simple little group party games. I play those quite often outside of Mensa with other people, and that's fine.
yeah,
People enjoy it. It's a social activity. You can get gamers of all levels, from grandma who never plays to that's what those are for. That's great. But if I'm at a Mensa event, I want to play something that's a little strategic, a little competition, that's not going to take
right.
all day long.
You have to up your game because you found better opponents, and it's not going to be the cakewalk that it might be when it's more casual players.
Well,
I love going to the logic puzzle tournament that Oriel puts together, because most of the time I'm the guy, and then you go
right.
into a room full of, they have that same experience of their mind works quickly and well, and it sees connections that others don't, and you really got to work to get the A.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
And that's only half of it. As you were saying earlier, the other half is, like our first Friday night game night, there's some great gamers there. So there's gamers that, can beat me at just about everything. They're really good. They know every game. They've played every game. But we quite often get casual gamers who aren't gaming much. So if I take something more complicated, we spend most of the game trying to help them and explain to them, so they're enjoying it, but it takes away our enjoyment because it's not really playing the game anymore. So it's that also. And that's not even because they're not Mensa or IQ or anything. That's just, they don't play games much, and this is a difficult game.
that's right. Honestly, I really regret, we have regular gaming events, both ecom down south of us and up here, and I've been to like 1 out of 6, 1 out of 10. It used to be that was a Saturday afternoon. That's what I wanted to do with my time. And for whatever reason, I regularly have conflicts, or I regularly have things that if I got to get something done by Sunday, I got to think, I really need that 4 hours. I can't go and go there from 1 to 5, 1 to 6. And so the joy that I get out of that, of playing with good company, of good explainers, and you know what I mean? Especially, I love it, much like other things. A wonderful Mensa thing is if you've got people that have learned opinions, when they stumble onto a new game that they really like and want to share that, it's really cool, just like a good movie or a good book or good music. And so the fact that I've missed Matthew bringing in his favorite castle defense game or whatever like that, I miss that. That's a great experience to have someone who enthusiastically tells you, here's a cool new game and here's why it's cool. And then and that you get 1 or 2 or 3 rounds in it so that everybody gets a chance to try it first. And then you can see the wheels turning in people of like, well, last time I was kind of isolationist. Now I'm going to be more aggressive, or whatever else it might be based on the kind of game that it is. So I have not given myself that treat in too long of a time. I just haven't regularly fitted in. And maybe that's something that, Colleen and I have to arrange our schedules to say, once we know that it's game day, just clear your schedule or get
Right.
shit done so that you can go and not worry about what else you have to get done over the weekend. Just go spend a nice Saturday afternoon.
Right. And I mentioned a couple times Amber has been doing some regular gaming, and I went to one of those. I'm trying to get to another one.
Yeah,
And my
gaming, exactly. Meet
Yes.
people, that's a fun one. Exactly.
Yeah. I told her she spelled people wrong though. She spelled it normal. I said, shouldn't it be Peeple? I mean, it just makes sense.
Alliterative kind of, exactly.
Yeah. But I've been getting together with my buddy Sean. We play old card games that people don't play anymore.
Yeah.
Our Friday night thing I've been doing. So I've been trying to get more of gaming again, because I do miss it. And I'm like, what's the point in me having games if I'm not playing games?
Yeah, just sitting on the shelf. I understand. I love the fact that new games are continually coming out. And like one of the joys of mind games is where people say, well, it's kind of like bridge, but compressed. Or it's, if you've played, you're going to build a city, but now we got a new thing where, I don't know, it's more islands connecting instead of city blocks next to each other. They just do enough variations on a theme that it really does lend a new little frisson of interest and variation, where you have a deck that has 5 suits instead of 4, whatever else it might be. It makes for interesting things like that. And I love that people not only thought of a variation, but then said, well, how do we make it so that it's as interesting as the existing version, or why not just do that? But that it breaks the rules in just the right way. It adds complexity without being overwhelmed. People are really, as people have gotten better at Spiel, the German gaming convention is where so many of the great settlers of Catan and Puerto Rico, the resource management games, various different things, they found a way to make it that it wasn't all afternoon, civilization-wise, building the world. You can really do this little mini world with contiguous tiles, but they don't all work, and it's an hour and a half. And so if you want to play it again, you can, or if you want to play something different, it didn't take that you dedicated yourself to diplomacy for the entire freaking afternoon, that kind of thing. So
there's a new one I played at Amber's Meeple People. It was a deck builder called Summer Camp, and it was about the level of Dominion, meaning it's not a lot of rules. It's, actions and buy, and you play your cards. It's simple to get people into it, as long as you don't have a complicated setup. That's where it gets complicated. But Summer Camp was, we had 2 people who had never played a deck builder, and they were doing very well throughout the game, figured it out pretty quick. And the theme was fun. It made sense. It was easy. So, I enjoy a deck builder, and this was a variation on a theme that made it fun. Now, I've got multiple deck builders, so I'm not rushing out to buy the new one that I'm probably not going to play again unless someone else brings it. Okay. I 10, 15, 20 years ago, I probably would have went, I got to go get that. But now I'm like, I've got enough games. I'm good. I could host game days all year and play a different game each time,
Yeah. This came up over the weekend for whatever reason, like playing poker. I used to be in a regular, like every month on the 3rd Friday, we played poker back in Chicago. And it was a neighborhood poker game, meaning it wasn't just Texas Hold'em or, and someone like a dealer and kind of a formalized thing. It was dealer calls the game, and you had all these variations from people's backgrounds as to what did they play in different states or in different families or whatever else it might be. And I used to love that because it was that good combination of, sometimes people play dealer advantage games as the dealer because they know that's smart if they're trying to make money. And oftentimes I would make sure I did things that were like, I'm pretty sure that this is a level playing field game. It just is that I like the combinatorics of things. You make a little tableau of like a cross or even 9 cards, and your 4 cards and any set of 3 across, up and down, diagonal can be worked. And it keeps more people in the game if you're playing high-low splits I liked where everybody is in every hand and that they're all doing their own like risk computation as to how much they think it might be worth. And instead of it being like, I've always hated conquest games because like Risk, I got killed and then I'm going to go watch TV, I guess, because the real's going to finish the game. Same with Monopoly, same with other things that don't have that. Everybody's in for every hand, every round interaction and stuff like that. So I really miss that if you have a good set of poker playing friends, it really is cool. Like a lot of things are, you've played before and there's regular things that happen, but once in a while you get that like against the odds thing that happens. And people like it becomes a legend at the game. Remember that time where we had a game we used to call like Dropsy, where you throw cards out and it kind of takes cards out of other people's hands. And someone had a fantastic hand where they were going to get down to like a single ace. And as a low, 1 point, how can you do better than that? And someone else got rid of all their cards, the perfect set of things that took everything. It's like, and of course the guy with the ace that knew he was going to be able to get down to the ace was like betting his pants off every single round because he knew he had a lock, and then he didn't have the lock. And it's like, Craig, we're so sorry. It should have been that way. And yet that's exactly why it's legendary. It's because something that was astronomically, not going to happen, it still bit you. So ouch, I'm sorry that your rent money went into the pot that day.
Love it, yeah.
Correct bet. It's like they call it a bad beat in regular poker. You know what I mean? Where you got the nuts from the start, and then someone else pulls the better full house to your great full house. And like, how did that happen?
Right.
Anyway.
So there's one game that is kind of, with me and Colin at least, kind of a legendary game itself.
Okay.
We don't get to play it very often. We don't pull it out with most people because it is a bit more complicated. And it's not that the gameplay is complicated. It's based on The Walking Dead, the comic book.
Okay.
It's got graphics from the comic books. And you're going around the map trying to get other survivors to join you, and weapons and food and stuff. And you're competing against the others. But as you move places, you turn over cards and you can meet zombies and have to fight and lose people. And you're trying to scout out locations and find 3 good locations that you could move to. And that's how you win. What makes it complicated, hard, is the zombies. If you don't kill them all, they stay on the board and your opponents get to keep moving them. So as you're trying to maneuver, the zombies are getting moved all around and you have to like change course, which is like the show or the comic book.
People actually heard the, okay, got it.
Right. But this is what makes it one of our favorite games, but also what complicates it for a lot of people. When you get cards, a lot of times it says, you can get 1 gas, but you have to give an opponent 2 of your bullets, or you can get 5 bullets, but each other opponent gets 3 bullets. It's these gray area, or, if you take this, you take damage, but if you give somebody else this, then you get these other things. And so it's these, choices you got to make.
Exactly.
Not only,
it's not pure advantage like chance and community chest. It lets other people also get advantage or disadvantage. That's common. Okay.
Yeah. So it just that mechanic and those gray choices, that not everything helps me, not everything hurts them. Not every choice I make hurts my opponent. Sometimes it helps them a bit, but it helps me more, or it helps this guy where he was disadvantaged. So maybe now he's not going to attack me, but then this other guy who wanted to take him out, now he can't. And so the whole, gameplay politics becomes very convoluted sometimes with it. And that's what we really, really like about it. But we found there's a couple of drawbacks to it. It can be a long game, trying to map the things. And we do stack the deck just a little bit. We've played several times, and like somebody with just one person flips over. It's like, oh, 8 zombies. Well, I'm dead. End of game. The rest of you play for 2 hours on, So we stack it a little bit. It's like, you're not going to get.
Those things can't happen. Exactly.
Yeah. So
I remember I really have never enjoyed games where if things go just right in the first couple turns, someone gets like an insurmountable lead and then just kind of playing it out. And there's one game called The Greater Dalmoody. Have you ever played?
Oh, yes. I love the Dalmoody.
Where it's meant to be that it's all kind of positional and hierarchical, but there's always the possibilities of someone that has been at the top for a while, suddenly they get bad luck, they get betrayed, whatever else it might be, and there's shifting around. You actually, as you know, change seats. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's the positional play. And the first time I played that, I really enjoyed it. And I could see how there were people where they play accretion games. Like, if I keep doing well, I really will get ahead and nobody will be able to catch me. And they hate the rug being pulled out from under them. So I've noticed that those kind of people don't play the Greater Dalmoody. No matter how good I play, there's that little random factor that might screw me over,
So anyone that hasn't played Dalmoody, my first advice is don't even bother with less than 5 people. It's set up. You can play 4, but 5 is better. 7 or 8 is even better than that. Mm-hmm. It's one of those games.
Yeah, the interactions and the complications are better with that many more people playing. That's right.
Yes. And also, this is a game where you just play. Each round is its own separate little game. It's not an overall winner at the end of the day. It's who wins that round. Let's play the next round. It's a social game in that it's casual play, but every turn it can change. You might, like you said, be the head one round. The next round, you're not the head. But there's no connection between those rounds. It really is just who's going to win this round. Okay.
So we're getting. So can I share this with you?
Yeah, of course.
So Ian Douglas.
I was going to ask. I didn't know what his new stuff was out.
Ian Douglas. This one just came out. We have a friend Bill who writes under the Ian Douglas pseudonym and is a great author and very prolific. And so he's done a whole bunch of like space opera type books, really well written space exploration, interaction with aliens and with artificial intelligence and, into the future, and military themes and stuff like that, that you're not exploring space without there being galactic forces that help keep you safe from the depredations of the crab aliens or whatever else it might be. So Bill had talked to me like more than a year ago about this thing. May I read a quick passage here? Let's see. Morgan sat back in her chair and watched the Bauschock coruscation spark and flicker across the view forward, a display physicists called the Baltus effect. I'm immortal. He put me in a book.
Nice. Okay, so I've got to get that one, and I have to have you and Bill sign it.
He gave me a wonderful attribute. He handed it off to me. He was at this gathering, and so it's like, Alan, who was the inspiration for the Baltus radiation described in this book, all the best, and watch yourself when getting to near sea velocities, because it happens at like 95% near the speed of light type thing. And honestly, when he had talked to me about it, it really is a beautiful thing. It's kind of like that fireworks of having time dilation and energy dispersion and all the kind of stuff when you're doing near light travel. And so it's like, if it would have been, oh yeah, they're the Baltus lizard, maybe I wouldn't have been quite as enthusiastic about, you're that alien that keeps on shooting pus or something like that. And instead I get to be this beautiful interstellar firework.
Beautiful. Nice.
Is that the coolest thing?
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Bill, because I've lost track of where he's at with books, and that, I picked up a lot of his old catalog,
right.
And I just haven't kept up so much with the new stuff.
Exactly. He's got multiple series, and they're all kind of in a shared universe. Well, maybe not all, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's trilogy, and I think I'm like 2 trilogies behind because there's so much good stuff coming out, but I faithfully buy them. And so it's like one of those things that this one indeed, and I only had to get to page 44 before, boom, I'm in a book. So he's such a wonderful guy, and we have the same birthday, by the way.
Neat.
We're birthday buddies. We've had, like, sometimes Mensic things can be that while you're running to programs or playing games or whatever like that, that conversations are shallow. You know what I mean? You're always running to go do other things. And yet he and I have sat down and like, we didn't want to leave to go do the other presentation. We've had wonderful conversations that just, you weren't done yet. You had cool things to talk about. There's a couple of wonderful people in Mensa that are like that. Leo Doyle and I, whenever we talk, it just seems to be that we have a lot to talk about, much like you and I doing our podcast.
Sit and talk.
Yeah, exactly.
I will make comment though. I don't know if I'd regard Bill's books as space opera so much as like sci-fi, military, hard military sci-fi. That's what I would say. Space opera I feel is more pulpy fiction.
The reason I give some of that is because though it's rigorously about military and maneuvering and stuff like that, there really still are lots of human interaction and lots of like the way that empires rise and fall, and the fact that people and enhanced people, and there's like human factors that give me that more operatic quality, I guess. You know what I mean?
There's definitely crossovers and gray areas.
Yeah,
definitely. So
just that. I can't believe I'm just so happy. How cool is that? You know what I mean? Like Colleen and I are always, I don't know, making up new phrases, new words. And when you hear somebody repeat it back to you, it's very satisfying that you put something kind of into the public the consciousness that, used to be Saturday Night Live would do that. They'd create the first catchphrases. Now memes, everybody tries to do memes, but I have always done neologisms, new words or phrases. So I just used one like referring to, jerks, that they're cactile, that they're like a cactus, if you will. And so it's nice once in a while where something really does seem to have a little bit of infectiousness, a little bit of staying power. And it's like, well, I get little tiny bits of 15 minutes of fame, 30 seconds at a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And because the stuff I write is for kids.
Yes.
Every now and then I'll throw in a word that doesn't exist in our dictionary. Shakespeare did it. Why can't I? We still use some of his words. And I have gotten editors that read it. Oh, this isn't a real word. You need to replace it and describe this. But I'm like, no. do you know what I mean when I say that? Well, yeah, I understand it. That's good enough. This is kids.
Right. From context, from Latin root, from whatever it was that you
Yeah.
figure out what it's supposed to be. That's right.
Yeah, they, and I like to do like italicized. That's a word, but it's italicistic. Well, that really isn't, but you can get what it means from whatever I'm talking about.
I'm very playful, and this is another. It's not only Mensa, it's the world, but particularly in Mensa, there's any number of times where I make a joke and it's kind of a pun, and I know that it's not correct. It's meant to be a corruption of someone will correct me saying, well, spiders are arachnids, not insects. And it's like, yes, I know.
Not bugs either.
And I also know that when you start to have to explain a joke, you've just knifed it. You've killed the humor.
Well,
is that your journey? Is that your purpose in the world? Is
right. Oh, there are. We know there are.
So
It's like I get hesitant of playing a game like apples to apples with certain people,
right?
Because they will say, "Well, why'd you pick that one? That's not the definition of that word.
Literal.
It's not supposed to be. Have you played Cards Against Humanity? You're not getting definitions. This isn't meant to give me definition. It's not the Webster's dictionary game. It's supposed to be what you think that person's going to find funny, or what they're going to relate to, or something."
Exactly. And sometimes, like, you throw things out not knowing that someone's going to get the reference, but it's just like, you do it to amuse yourself.
Yes.
It's like, so there's, what's the name of the game? It's a word association game that Mensans play. And often it's like, there's 50 people in the room. It's where you have to make a connection between movies, books, etc. That's, it's the same person that wrote it, the same star, the same
triple something. You get 3 type words and you have to find the matching something between them, right?
It's not that, though. That is another good game. Anyway, one of the things you can do is, even if you don't get, like, people will challenge it if it's like, well, that wasn't Rod Steiger, that was actually Ernest Borgnine in that movie, and then they have to drop out because they didn't make that association that's legitimate. But if you make a good enough pun, then everybody laughs. And it's like, okay, you get to keep going. So I remember at one point, someone said to me, "You Thant," which was a former Secretary General of the United Nations. And if you think of that, it's like, well, where can you go from there? That's purposely meant to be. And so I said, "Thant cloth." You know what I mean? And I'm like, Santa Claus. And everybody was like, "Ow! You got out of his evil trap." And I got a claim. So once in a while, it's so fun, not only to make that, but to know when someone really did, like, they hit a kill shot in racquetball, and somehow you still got to it. It's so satisfying to not let someone get away with it. You know what I mean? So
nice. All right. So, about time to get going.
Sounds good. Always a pleasure. We'll see you next week. The weather's getting nicer. Country's getting shittier, but we're going to deal with it, aren't we?
That's why I'm playing more games. I need to forget about the country and go relax and play games.
Reality aside. So, okay.
Choose a better reality.
Exactly. A better adventure. Take care, Stephen.
Later, man.
You have been listening to the Relentless Geekery podcast. Come back next week and join Alan and Stephen's conversation on geek topics of the week.